Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Yappers Club. Hi, guys. Good morning. It is 10 a.m. My hair looks like shit. It's September. It's September 4th. It's officially fall. It's still hot as fuck, hot as balls outside. But that's not important. I'm just waiting. Просто чакам деня, в който ще стане студено. Чакам деня, в който ще мога да нося свитер, ще мога да нося like long sleeve shirts and like jeans and shit like that because I'm sick of summer. I've said it before, but that's not the focus of this episode. Okay? That's not the focus. This week's episode, I wanted to talk about something serious. Shocker. I know. I wanted to talk about something serious and something that's, I think should be talked about more because I don't feel like a lot of people my age especially, хората, които имат платформи на моите години, не съм забелязал да говорят толкова много за това нещо. And I feel like if you have a platform, особено си на 20 няколко, and you have a platform, I feel like you should talk about these things because that's something that a lot of people struggle with. If you didn't know, September is the Suicide Prevention Month. And I wanted to talk about that specifically. I wanted to talk about the whole self-exit of it all, the whole suicide thing, because for me, I've struggled with a lot of things in my life. And also, this is a little trigger warning before we start. If you get easily triggered by things that talk about, self-harm, self-exiting, things like that, you can click off of this episode. You do not have to listen because I can see how triggering that could be for some people and how hard it is for me to listen to people that talk about self-exiting and self-harm and all that. And if you are easily triggered by that, I would suggest you click off and I'll see you on the next one. But anyways, I think we should start off by saying suicide is something that a lot of people struggle with. And there are many people my age or even younger that lose their lives because of it. And I think September has always been a very weird month for me because every year that September comes around, I just notice that no one is talking about that it's suicide prevention, and no one is saying anything. Особено хората, които имат платформа онлайн. И аз не казвам, че имам много голяма платформа because I fucking don't. I mean, I'm not like famous. Like no one knows me. So, I mean, it's not that important what I have to say, but I feel like if I do it, then maybe other people would be like, I don't know, inspired. I'm not trying to inspire anyone to talk about, self-exiting and SH, but, it would be a nice conversation to have. But when you are talking about things like that, you should have a lot of empathy. Generally, people see self-exiting and SH as something that's, not real. Или if you know someone who is struggling, or most parents, I think, повечето хора, които са малко по-възрастни от нас, виждат тия неща като това са някакви филмарски истории, те са във филма, това е нормално нещо за всеки тинейджър. And I'm sorry to say, but that's not a normal thing a teenager should go through, or a kid in general that should go through. I don't think it's normal for a child to be thinking of ending their life at 14 or 12 just because something terrible is happening in their life, and I don't see that as normal, and it will never be normal. And I've seen a lot of people talk about self-exiting and SH as things that don't happen that often, and if you are struggling with it, you should just get a grip. I've seen so many people glamorize especially SH as something that's cool, or especially on Twitter, I see people talking about SH as something that's like cool, or like they're glamorizing it, or like they make it like a trend. And it's so fucked up to me because I've seen so many people, and I know people I've known people who have glamorized SH to a point where it's just gross to see. Because I have struggled with SH for almost like 2 years. I struggled with SH for a long time, and I can see how triggering it could be for other people. And it's so fucked up to see that other people are struggling with it as well, but they're glamorizing it in a way that's damaging to people who are trying to get out of that situation and are trying to get better. SH is something that, a lot of people see it as something like you're doing it for attention, or you're taking pictures of your scars because you want to get attention, you want to get sympathy from people, and I do not agree with that. There is that small portion of people who do it for attention. I do agree with that, and take that as how you want. That's just my personal opinion, because I have seen people struggle with it. Me personally, I have struggled with it as well, and I see there are groups of people that see SH as something to get attention, and they deliberately wear clothes that show off their scars, and it just doesn't it's just not okay to do, because to me, when I used to, self harm, I used to hide my body all the time, because when you are self harming, when you are going through that process, you are embarrassed of it. You feel like you don't want anyone to know. You feel like shit, basically. You feel like a piece of garbage because you are doing it, because you feel like, you're blaming yourself for doing it. You're saying like, oh, like if I do this, then I'm not grateful, or I have so many friends and my family love me, so why am I doing it? It's so embarrassing. So you tend to hide your scars. You tend to hide within yourself and wear long sleeves and anything long that covers your whole body, so people don't know. And for you to openly wear things like that and show them off, because it is the other side of the coin, you know what I mean? Because it's like, there are people who genuinely are not scared to show it off. There are people that are not scared to show off their scars and just wear them proudly and like be like, yes, I struggle with it, but that will not make me less confident in myself. I see that point of view because I have done it before. There is that group of people who do it just because they want to get asked about it, or they just want like sympathy from people, or they use it as a weapon to over people, and it's just, to me, that's so evil. Like, I see that as evil, because me personally, as a person who has struggled with it, I have never ever in my life used my traumas as a weapon over people. Yes, I explain to them why I'm doing the things I'm doing and why I'm reacting like that because of my trauma, but I will never ever use that as a weapon towards someone, because I feel like that's just manipulative. I think that's disgusting. And as people struggle with that every day, there's so many people, and not even people, there are teenagers, there's kids who are struggling with it. And for you to glamorize it and say like, oh, like that's completely normal, everyone goes through that, you shouldn't be ashamed of it. You should not be ashamed of it, yes, but that is not a thing that should be normal. That is not a thing a kid should be going through, especially self-harm. And I feel like a lot of people have lost that sort of line. We've lost, like, there is no line, whether it be someone who is already gone through it and is trying to raise awareness, but not in the right way. I think if you are trying to raise awareness about things like this, because this is a very like hard topic to talk about. It's always been a hard topic for me to talk about, but I've always been open about talking about it, because I feel like you shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's not something that diminishes you as a human being. It's not something you should be embarrassed about. It's not something you should blame yourself for, because when you are going through, especially as an age, you do it because you want to inflict pain on yourself. And I think for me, that's just my personal, that's just my, guys, the lighting changed. I apologize. But as I was saying, for me, that is just my personal experience. I did it because I genuinely hated myself. And I was sick of like crying and crashing out and screaming and talking about my issues with my so-called friends back in the day, because those were not friends. Now I'm realizing that those people were not my friends. But anyways, and I was going through it, and I was doing it because I wanted to genuinely inflict pain on myself and wanted to make myself hurt physically, because I was so hurt emotionally, and that I did not see like any other way to deal with the pain. So if I was inflicting physical pain on myself, then I could not be thinking about the emotional pain I was going through. And it was a really fucked up, like, self-destructive situations I was in for like 2 years, and no one knew. No one genuinely. I remember one time I told someone, I shared it because no one knew, and I, was embarrassed about it, and I was disgusted of myself for doing it. And I shared it with someone, and they made me feel like shit about myself. Както на всички, if you have struggled with SH before, there is that point where you can't keep it in anymore, and you decide, okay, I'll be vulnerable and I'll share it with someone. And I did share it, and повечето хора реагират по начин, по който е: о, ма защо го правиш, трябва да си благодарен, така нараняваш себе си и повече нараняваш другите около теб. It's a very selfish thing to do, and I do agree. To a point, it is selfish, because we are selfish people. Like, people are selfish. Whether you believe it or not, people are selfish. People will always be selfish. But I don't see that as something evil, because you are hurting yourself, yes, and you are also hurting people around you. But for me, it wasn't like that. I just didn't want anyone to know, because I didn't want to hurt them. So if they didn't know, I didn't see any problem with it. And that's a very fucked up thing to go through at such a young age, because I was really young when I was going through it. And for people to say that it's normal to go through it, it's normal to self-harm at 12 or 15 or whatever age it may be, it is not normal. I think it should be less normalized, and I think people should be more empathetic to people like that, because every time you hear about someone, self-exiting or struggling with SH, your first reaction, most people's first reaction is, oh, they're so selfish. How could they do that to the people they love? And I do agree to a certain point, because it is selfish and you are hurting the people that love you. But when you are in that state of mind, when you are going through that process of SH, whether that be self-exit thoughts, attempts and stuff, you don't really think about other people. You just think about how it's going to make you feel. And for a lot of people, including me, that was my escape. That was my, in a way, I could save myself from the pain I was feeling, the emotional pain I was in. Because when you are going through emotional pain at a young age, it is so completely different. It is so different than when you are going through it at an older age, because when we are teenagers, we tend to see things differently. It feel more, because you are a kid, you are growing up, like everything is changing, your brain is changing, it is forming, and we tend to feel things on a deeper level. For example, I still feel things on a deeper level, but I have learned a lot of things. So it's not that bad anymore. I don't do it anymore. So I have gone through it for almost like 2 to 3 to 4 years with SH and self-exiting, because I have had my attempts, here and there. I'm glad to say that I have gone through it. And if you are wondering, or if anyone has wondered, like, how do you get through that period of life, and how do you manage those emotions, and how do you stop doing it? And I'm sorry to say, there isn't a right way. There is never a right way to go through that. There is never a right or wrong way how to go about these feelings and these experiences in your life, especially SH and self-exit thoughts. There isn't a right way to do it. There isn't a right formula you can use so you can get better. Because for me, I just started talking more. I think that's what helped me. And finding those people who you genuinely feel like you can share anything to them, and they will not attack you, they will not blame you for it. They're just to listen. And I'm glad that I have those people in my life now, that whatever happens, I can share that with them, and I will feel better. I will have a comfort place where I can share anything I feel and not be blamed for it or not be attacked for it. Because for most of my life, when I was going through those things, I was blamed for it. I was attacked for it, because you're just seen as ungrateful and selfish, and that is not the case. For me, that was not the case. I never felt selfish. I never felt ungrateful when I was doing it. The feeling I had for the most part was relief. And that is scary to think. Like that the only solution you have for yourself is SH or attempting to, self-exit. And it's a really hard topic for people to talk about because it is scary. It is very vulnerable. You're opening yourself to a lot of people and sharing it with a lot of people, and it is scary. But I feel like people should talk about it more and we should give it more awareness because, as I said, the rates of self-exiting are going up because no one talks about it and no one gives it light. So it's just not seen as much, И не говоря само за България in general. I'm talking about every country, all around the world. Защото според мен хората се чувстваме сякаш ние трябва да съдим някой. Защото ние обожаваме, we love judging people. We love judging them for everything. Ние се чувстваме сякаш сме съдители. В смисъл буквално трябва да съдиш някой за това той какво прави, какво е казал, защо го е направил, защо го е казал. Because it's not you. So if it's not you, it's okay. And for me, that's just so fucked up and so disgusting for you to judge someone based on literally nothing, based on what you see or what you hear about them. Or let's say your best friend in the whole wide world opens up about, an attempt or something of that sort, something very scary and something very, damaging to them. And your first reaction is to judge them and attack them and blame them for it and call them selfish and ungrateful. I feel like that's what most people in this day and age do, especially the older generations. I feel like no one has a right place they can share their experiences. Even in therapy, you would be called selfish, you would be called ungrateful. They would say things like, there's so many good things to think about, you have so many good things in your life, but what you're forgetting is when you are going through that process, you can only see black. You know what I mean? Like the only thing you're thinking about is how bad you're feeling and what can I do to make myself numb, or what can I do to take away this emotional pain? And for me, inflicting physical pain on myself was the way to deal with it. And that is not the right way to deal with it. Now I know that. And it's never the right way to do it. For you to inflict pain on yourself, especially physical one, in order to deal with your emotional issues is something that should never be okay. It's not a normal thing. And I don't think people should glamorize it or normalize it, because there are people that are losing their lives, especially kids, because the rates are going up and they have been going up, and no one seems to not care, because I do see a lot of people talking about it, but not enough. Особено в България забелязвам, че почти никой не говори за тия неща. И no one is bringing light to this. No one is talking about it. No one is opening up to it. No one is saying anything about it, because we're so scared of what other people might say. Ako съм influencer and I go online and be more empathetic towards people who are struggling with those things, I'll be attacked, because това си мислят повечето инфлуенсъри. Аз ако говоря за това нещо, ще ме атакуват или ще ме кенселнат, или сега имам кариера, която съм изградил и няма да говоря за това, защото God forbid, I get canceled or lose my fucking sponsorships. And it's so fucked up. It's so sad to see that no one is talking about it as much as it should be talked about, because it is a very real experience. And I do know a lot of people, and I have unfortunately lost people I know to that thing. And I think it's a very scary topic to talk about, especially for me, because, единствените хора, с които споделям за тия неща, са моите най-близки приятели и семейството ми. And for me to talk about it so openly just means that anyone can do it. And when you are going through that process, because I remember when I was younger and I was going through those things, I didn't have the right place to talk about it. I didn't feel comfortable enough to talk about anything of that sort, because, it's seen as something selfish. It's seen as something, the most terrible thing you can do to yourself. And that's not wrong, because in a way it is really wrong to do that to yourself. But when you are in that process, you shouldn't be attacking people for doing it. You should be just there to listen, Ако хората се страхуваме от това да слушаме за тия неща, защото не знаем как да помогнем и не знаем какво да кажем и не знаем как да постъпим спрямо този човек, който преминава през тия неща, because, let's say you're not going through it, but your best friend is, and you don't know what to say, you don't know how to help them. And in most cases, we tend to not want to listen to it. And to that person, it seems like, okay, they're not going to listen to me. They're not going to, no one cares, to be honest. Because when I was going through it, I thought that no one fucking cared, literally. And I thought that I was the only one that I was going through what I was going through. And it was really scary for me to open up about it, especially to the people that I met in my later years, and it's a very touchy subject, especially self-exiting and SH. And it is very scary to talk about and open up and, just like be open about it and not be scared about it. It is a very scary thing for me to do, especially now. It'll always be a touchy subject, but I feel like it should be talked about because, as I said a million times on this episode, I think a lot of people are losing their lives, especially kids. Kids are losing their lives because of it. And kids are losing their lives because they don't feel like they have the place to talk about it. They don't feel like they have the right people. They feel like everyone is against that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be against it, because we should be against, self-exiting and self-harm. We should be against it, yes. But when someone is going through it, you shouldn't attack them for it. You shouldn't tell them like, oh, but there's so many good things in your life, you should be grateful. That's something very ungrateful you're doing. It's something very selfish. It's something damaging, because it's not wrong, but it's not the right way to go through that. It's not the right way to help that person. And there's never a right way to help someone who is going through it, but just listening and being empathetic and being open to just listen, I feel like would help that person even just a tiny bit. Because when I did start talking about it with my friends now, I did feel a sort of, comfort and safe to open up and be vulnerable about those things, because it is a very scary thing. And it is very graphic because, I had to, because I'm a person who loves details. I love saying stories, as we all know. I love saying stories with detail. I love stories that have detail, that have every little detail. I need to know it. And for me to say those stories and talk about those stories and talk about those experiences with so much detail, and for the other person to just listen and not attack me for it, was probably what helped me go through it. You know what I mean? So I feel like if you know someone who's going through it, or you're going through it, I feel like go and find someone, or I know there is people who will listen to you, who will hear you out, who will not make you feel like you're the scum of the fucking earth, because that's how I felt when I was talking about it in the past. That's why I stopped talking about it and continued doing it for so long, because I felt like no one understood why I was doing it. And there's also that question of, why are you doing it? There's so many things you could be doing to get better or anything. So why are you doing this to yourself? Why? The question was always why. And for me, I've said it a million times, for me, it was just a way to not feel my emotional pain. It was a way for me to focus on something physical, the pain I was feeling, in order to kind of numb my brain and trick my brain into thinking that, I can just inflict this pain on myself, so I am not focused on the emotional pain I was feeling. And it's a very fucked up way of thinking, and it was a very fucked up situation, and it was a very traumatic experience for me. And for me to find people who genuinely want to listen without any attacking, without any guilt tripping, without anything of that sort, was the thing that helped me through it. I feel like за повечето от нас имаме чувството, че не можем да споделим нищо с никой, защото всички, every experience and every feeling is different from one person to the other. And we feel like we don't have that place to share because we feel misunderstood. We feel like we're going to get attacked. Because unfortunately, no one will know your experience like you know it. But you shouldn't blame yourself for it. You shouldn't feel like you don't have the right place to share that, because you should always share what you're feeling and what you're going through, especially if you're going through something as heavy as that, because I know how heavy that is, and I know how scary that is. And I've had many conversations with many people in my life that, I was, attempting to do things. And I remember one time, I have attempted in my life to do the unthinkable, self-exiting. I have attempted it many times. Um, and I remember one time specifically, I got a call just as I was about to do that, and I don't know what came over me because I was so focused on doing that. And I did get a call, and I was just looking at my phone, and I was like, what am I doing? And in that moment, I was like, okay, like I should answer the phone, and I just broke down in front of that person. And I was like, I was just about to do this, blah, 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 whatever. And they were just listening. They did not say anything that could, make me feel worse, because I already felt bad about doing it, because when you are doing it, you don't feel like um you're doing something to help you. You feel like shit for doing it, at least in my case, because there is cases where you feel like good. You feel good doing it. It makes you feel euphoric. It makes you feel safe. It makes you feel comforted. And I see that as well. I do understand where that could be coming from. But for me, I just felt bad about doing it. But I just didn't see any other way for me to deal with my emotional trauma that I had, And I feel like in most cases, you do tend to think about self-exit in a way that's the only thing that could help you. That's the only way out, if you as if you didn't exist anymore. And for a long time, that was the case for me. I did not see the light at the end of the tunnel. I did not see any way for me to get better, because I didn't talk about it with anyone. I didn't do anything to help me. I didn't have the place. I didn't have the friends to help me, and like I didn't have the place to feel comfortable enough to talk about it without, feeling guilty or embarrassed, because I was so embarrassed. I was blaming myself 24/7. Maybe that's why I kept doing it for so long, because I felt shit about myself, and I felt like guilty for doing it. So I kept doing it because, hey, like I shared it one time and that person made me feel like garbage for doing it. So I just closed myself off even more. And I feel like that shouldn't happen. I feel like people should be more empathetic. I feel like people who are struggling with those things should have a place so they can share it without feeling guilty, embarrassed, or attacked in any way, because it is a very scary experience and people lose their lives all the time because of that, because they don't have the place for sharing it, because they don't have the love they need to share it. And, it's a very sad situation, especially особено в днешно време, когато виждам някакви деца, които са на по 13, 14, just like teenagers, because I'm not a teenager. I am 23. But I see teenagers who are getting bullied all the damn time, or I see people online bullying other people. And that also is so fucked up and so wrong, because bullying will make you do the worst things possible to yourself. Because I was bullied in high school for a long time. I was. And for you to bully someone just because you don't know their story and just because you want to feel good about yourself is something that's fucked up to me, and I don't think that should be done. But unfortunately, bullying will forever be a thing. And виждам как става после, actually. Like with every day, I see bullying becoming even worse, especially online bullying, because I was getting bullied face to face. I was getting bullied online as well, but I was getting bullied more face to face in real life. And cyberbullying is a big thing now. And just because you don't know what's going on in someone's life and you don't know what their head is like, that doesn't give you the right to bully them for it, And повечето хора, които преминават през такива неща, including me, I was the same way, tend to close off more and more, because they don't have the space to share. They don't have the space to be vulnerable. They don't have the space to be open about their issues because you tend to feel attacked because God forbid a teenager is struggling with something emotionally. God forbid someone is getting bullied and they're scared to talk about it because they're seen as weak. Because if you share with someone that you're being bullied или споделиш някой, нали, тормозят ме в училище, обиждат ме постоянно, подиграват ми си или нещо такова, ти си видян като слаб, ти си видян като not being strong enough and not being like confident enough in yourself. And yes, that is the case. For a lot of people, for me especially, when I was getting bullied, I was already insecure, you know? And for me to get bullied for it was even harder on me. And I feel like people don't see that because we only see people as what they're showing us. You don't know the full story. You don't know what's going on inside of their brain. You don't know what's going on inside of their fucking life. So for you to attack them and bully them just because you don't know the full story, I feel like should not be a thing. And people are scared to talk about things like that because we're seen as weak. We're seen as, you know, как може да си на 12 и на 13 да имаш такива мисли или да you know, self-harming yourself. Like, защото повечето хора, като видят някой човек на 12-13, like a teenager, going through things like that and saying things like, oh, I like, you know, I want to end my life, or they're self-harming, we tend to see them as, you know, филмирани просто, защото поне на мен това са ми казвали, че съм или филмиран, или that I'm too much, or I'm blowing up a situation that's not even that big. But at the end of the day, even if that's the case, even if that was the case, you still do not know how people feel. You do not know what they're going through. You do not know how they see things and how they react to things because you are not them. And that does not give you the right to attack them just because they're not like you. And also, that does not make them weak in any fucking way. And that's why I feel like most people don't talk about these things because there's these things, especially self-exiting and self-harm, are seen as things that make you weak. They make you feel like, yeah, they make you feel you're seen as a weak human being. You're seen as someone who can't deal with their issues. And for that, I say, fuck everyone who says that because no one truly knows how to deal with their issues. We grow and we learn. That's how you learn how to deal with your issues. And for you to attack someone that's like 15 and struggling with things like that is disgusting to me. And for people to go online and say suicide is bad, you know, self-harming is bad, those things are all bad, we should never do them. And if you are doing them, you're ungrateful and selfish. That is doing more damage than you think it is. Because you don't know who's listening. And if someone is struggling with that and they see that video, unfortunately, in most cases, they tend to, you know, self-exit because of those things. And people don't notice that. People don't see that because they're never gonna be open and talk about it online or in real life because there's people that are saying things like that, you know? And in most cases, you never see the full story. And if you see someone who seems a little off, a little closed off, a little cold, a little, you know, for people who are struggling with that, I feel like you could tell. You can tell when someone is going through something really hard emotionally. And for you to attack them for it or make fun of them for it or say like you're ungrateful for all those things that I just said is fucked up. And that is evil to me. At the end of the day, because at the end of the day, you don't know what someone is going through and you never will. You never will. You will never be in their shoes. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be considerate and empathetic towards those people because they are scared to share it. They're embarrassed about it. They're guilty. They feel guilty for it, in my case. And I feel like in most cases, because I have talked to people who have struggled with those things, and I've seen a lot of different perspectives. I've seen a lot of people go through that period of their time in a different way, different than mine. And it's just all the time, it's different for everyone. And for people to see self-exiting and, you know, SH is something unspeakable, and even a sin, it's it's disgusting. It's 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 something that should not be even said or talked about, because if you see something like that as sinful or being ungrateful or being selfish, I don't think you should say anything. I think you should just keep your mouth closed, so people can actually talk about it. And God forbid someone goes online and talks about their experience, because I'm sure, and I just realized there might be people even on this episode that might, say, leave me a comment saying like, you are ungrateful, you are selfish, you are guilty for doing that, you are committing a sin, because I know my experience and I know what I had to go through in order to get here. And I know how hard it was for me to not do those things and actually get better. And nothing a person says to me will ever be hurtful. Когато преминах през това, съм чувал хора да ми казват неща от сорта на: ама ти сега го правиш защото така и така и така, ма ти сега го правиш защото така и така и така, ти го правиш за да получиш внимание, ти го правиш защото искаш да го използваш, защото повечето хора при мен го виждаха като някакво оръжие, което аз ще използвам срещу тях, нали. Един вид ще кажа: нали, аз сега го направих това заради теб. And I've never, ever in my life done that for someone else. I was doing it on me because of me. And because I was getting bullied, But I would never, even, God forbid, something happened and I was not here anymore, I would never blame someone else, because at the end of the day, it is your choice. It is a hard pill to swallow when you are going through it, but it is your choice, And there are, outside factors that play into you doing those things, but at the end of the day, it is your choice. And for me to accept that it was my choice for doing those things, it was a very hard pill to swallow. It was a very difficult thing to realize, but unfortunately, that's just the way those things go. It is your choice, and I'm not saying that you're a terrible human being for doing them. I'm not saying that you're ungrateful and you're selfish for doing that, because I would know what going through that is like. Защото има хора, които го използват това нещо като оръжие срещу другите и го държат на тези хора постоянно. I feel like that just should not be done, because if you are someone who is genuinely struggling with it and has struggled with it, you would see that as it would hurt you. It would trigger you, because I have seen people online and I have known people who use that as a sort of weapon above other people, and as a sort of, like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna blame them for it. And it's just fucked up to me, because the only person that I have ever blamed about SH in self-exiting attempts was me. I was not blaming anyone else, because, as I said, it is a hard pill to swallow, but in most cases it is your choice. And I hate that people choose to, end their life because they don't see any other way, or because they don't have a place to share those things. And it's fucked up for people to attack people who are struggling with it online, because I feel like you will never know what someone is going through if you were not them. You never know fully what someone is going through. And that does not mean you should attack them for it. People should be people. People should be more empathetic. People should be more open. People should be more vulnerable. People should be able to place themselves in other people's shoes in order to be there for them and be empathetic, because as people, we should do better. As people, we should be good to each other, And I just don't see that happening, unfortunately. I do believe that people could get better, and I do believe in people. Аз съм човек, който доста вярва в хората, и смятам, че if we really tried, we could do better, and we could do so many amazing things. But sometimes it's really hard to see that when you are going through it, because when I was going through it, I did not see any help. I didn't feel like I had any help. I didn't feel like I had the right place to ask for help. And unfortunately, that is the case for most people who are struggling with those things. Until we are more open and more sympathetic and give people the place to share their stories, we'll never do better. It's just going to get worse, unfortunately. And it is sad to see people, um, and it is sad to see kids losing their lives, because when it's just fucked up, like seeing kids being 10 and 12 and losing their lives because of those things, and self-exiting because they didn't have the place, or they were bullied for it, or they were attacked for it, or they felt like shit about it. And it's so sad because those are kids, and I was a kid too when I was going through that. And i'm glad that i I'm glad that I didn't do it. I'm glad that I'm still here. I'm glad that I found the right people for me to share those experiences with. And I feel like we should all do that. We should be more empathetic and let people open up and give people a place to open up about those things, because those things are something that not a lot of people can get out of. A lot of people do lose their life because they can't get out of it, because they don't have the space, and because we're fucked up. Защото повечето хора просто ще сме: ама ти си неблагодарен, ама ти си егоист, че го правиш това нещо. И аз съм бил наричан по много отвратителни начини за нещата, които правех преди върху себе си. And it was really difficult for me to rewire my brain into thinking that, you know what, yes, it's not normal, but I'm not gonna blame myself for it. Because when I was doing it, I didn't see any other way. Because people like that in most cases are seen as weak, as, you know, broken, as emo even, which is terrible, you know. But I think we should be more open to listening to those things and be more empathetic to people who are struggling with it. I think parents should be more open into listening to their kids about things like that. And if their kid is struggling with things like that, they should give them the proper help and proper love they need in order for them to feel comfortable enough to share those things and be more empathetic. And if you have a friend that you think that they might be going through something emotionally, you know, traumatizing for them or something of that sort, just try to be there for them. Just try to be as empathetic as possible, and let them create a space, create a place for them to feel comfortable enough to open up about those things. Because opening up and sharing those things with other people is something that really did help me. And that's why I'm here right now, you know? If it wasn't for my friends and the love I received for them, maybe I wouldn't be here, you know? And it is very scary to think that, you know, if you don't have love and support from anyone, you can't really go through life. You can't really be a human being if you don't have support or love. And that's to say that love is all people need, and empathy. If we're more loving and empathetic, I feel like we could be better and we could help so many people and, you know, lessen the damage that has done to kids going through that, because there's a lot of kids that are going through it. And I have known people who unfortunately are not here anymore because of those things, and it is scary. It is unfortunate to see that still happening and no one talking about it and no one giving any sort of help or empathy to people like that. And yeah, this was a very dark episode. It was a very heavy episode for me as well to record, because I've never shared so much of me online, you know? And I think I should, and I think more people should open up about things like that, because if you open up to things like that, or if you haven't struggled with it, or you feel like someone else is struggling with it, or you feel like you just want to help people who are, just open up and talk about it. Spread awareness about it, because it is Suicide Prevention Month, keyword prevention, and we should do better as people and, you know, prevent things like that happening to the younger generation. Not even the younger generation. There could be people who are 15 struggling with those things. but you never know until you ask, and be more empathetic and be human being and have an open heart to hard conversations like that, because it is a hard conversation. It is something that not a lot of people can listen to or can be there for, and I get that. That's why I said, trigger warning, because it is a very touchy subject. It is a very hard topic to listen to and talk about, but I think we should. I think we should spread awareness more about that, because it is scary. It is very scary. It is very traumatizing. It does leave you with a lot of scars, physical and mental, and we should be more empathetic towards people like that, And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I don't think anyone enjoyed this episode, to be honest. But what I want you to get out of this episode is be more empathetic towards people and be more loving and be more open to hard conversations like this. Защото колкото по-отворени сме към тия разговори, колкото повече емпатия имаме, колкото повече любов имаме към тия хора и към тези неща, смятам, че можем да постигнем много като общество. Просто трябва да сме готови да слушаме тези трудни неща, защото, people are losing their lives. And kids are losing their lives too. So I feel like this episode is a message towards people who are struggling with it, and to people who know someone who is struggling with it, to open up. And if you are going through something of this sort, even the tiniest bit, or you having thoughts of self-exiting, just know you are not alone. You will never be alone. You will never be alone in that. You will never be alone in those feelings. We may not have the same experience, but just know you're not alone. You're not the only one who has these thoughts or has struggled with it. And if we give more empathy and be more open and find comfort in people, I feel like we could get better and we could lessen that percentage of suicide rates. Do you want to end this episode on a good note and say that whatever it is you're going through, again, just know you are not alone, and do not let other people tell you how you should feel or how you should react, because it might be the wrong thing to do. Yes, it might be something terrible that you are doing to yourself, but do not let other people tell you what you should and what you should not do, how you should feel and how you should not feel. That is to say, seek help. Try to find people. Try to find that comfort place in order for you to open up about it. And if you don't have that comfort place or those people in your life that you feel like you can open up with, I will be always here. I'm always open to talking about these things because I feel like they should be talked about more. And if you feel like you are all alone in this and you feel like you don't have anyone in your life to share those things with, I'm right here. And this is to say that this is a month of, preventing things from that happening and spreading awareness about that and just being more empathetic and being more loving. And I wanted to make this episode because this is a very personal topic for me, and I don't really care how many people see this or how many people listen to this episode or whatever it is. I just wanted to spread awareness for it, and I feel like more people should. So yeah, I will see you on the next one. I hope you take good care of yourself and know that you're not alone, and spread awareness about those things. And I'm always here and I'm always open to talking about those things. And yeah, I will see you on the next one. Have a good day, everyone. You better have a good day. Okay. Bye.